What's going on, guys? It's Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm bringing you my recap and results video for UFC Vegas 109 Dolidze versus Hernandez. As you guys can see, we had a good night, bringing in over 1 unit of profit with 20% ROI on the money. It was a good night. Got to be grateful for these. So I was happy for the results for the card as a whole. So good card all around. Had a lot of bets that ended up coming through. Some were a little bit rocky. Some, it was a roller coaster there for a little bit, but we ended up big, ended up plus money. Love to see it. So I'm just going to go over some of the fights, talk about things that I saw, different plays we had, which ones I liked, which ones I didn't, what worked, what didn't. So let's go over them one by one. So first up, we had Cody Brundage versus Eric Mechanico. This was a shitty decision. This one really, when I saw the scorecards for this one, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a long night. But I know people are saying, Cody deserved to lose the fight. It's not even, people are not screaming robbery because Cody necessarily lost the fight. It's more so the fact that the judges that scored it, the scorecards were all over the place. They weren't even remotely close. So it wasn't even that. It was the second round. Cody Brundage decisively won the second round. But the two judges that ended up giving him the loss for the fight as a whole didn't score those 2 rounds for him. So if they're not scoring the second round for Cody Brundage, if two judges are not scoring that second round for Cody Brundage, then it makes it seem like that fight was just rigged from the start, because that was the most decisive round for him where he really won that round. And the fact that the 2 judges that ended up giving him a loss for the fight didn't score that for him tells you everything you need to know. That's why people are screaming robbery. That's why I think this fight genuinely was a robbery. Because if it was a 29-28 across the board and everyone gave Cody the second round, but they said he lost the first and the third, I could live with that. You can't scream robbery for that because it was close enough. I thought Cody won the first. I thought he won the second pretty clearly. And the third one, he was starting to gas out. He was tired. I think Eric Mechanico won the third round. I think it was a pretty clear 29-28. That's how it should have been. Because really, the second round, clear as day. Third round was close. Cody was definitely gassed. So, I think Eric deserved that third round, but it was close enough. I could see if Judge had it going either way. But the first round, Eric Mechanico had some success for like the first 10 seconds. He hit Cody, stunned him a little bit, but then Cody dominated the whole rest of the first round. So I don't know how the hell he won the first round and the second round. That just tells me it was a robbery. It's like, and the UFC doesn't like Cody Brundage. He's always in some BS with them. It doesn't surprise me at all this line went the other way. So that's why I didn't even want to include this one. I'm like, oh my God, we deserve this win. This was so shitty. The knockout prop, this obviously deserved to lose. Clear as day that deserved to lose, but this should have hit. It was very frustrating to see, and especially we started off with that as the first fight of the night. I just knew like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a rough one. But anyway, yeah, we started off with a little rough little end with the Cody Brundage. We should have broke even on this one, or it barely came up 0.02, because Cody Brundage should have won. The knockout should have lost. It should have been a scrap. Next up, though, we had Gabriel Hernandez versus Julia Storienko. This line cashed. We had Gabriel Hernandez and over a 0.5 round same game parlay. This cashed half a unit, made some money in that, which is got us out of the hole a little bit. I also had a live play on fight ends by KO. This was so frustrating, and I have it in blue because we didn't talk about this during my betting breakdown video, so that's kind of the thing. The ones in green were the bets that I placed already during the betting breakdown video. The bets in blue were ones that I added on later after that video was placed, and the ones in yellow were the live betting spots that I talked about in the last video too. But this blue one, yeah, fight ends via KO. Oh my goodness, Gabriel Hernandez bust Julia's eye open, and it was like late in the first round, and she's getting wobbled, and she's really putting the pace on her, and I'm like, oh my goodness, all right, plus 275, that's a great line for a knockout, considering her eyes busted up. Gabriel Hernandez, I thought she was going to up the pace, keep going harder and harder in the second and third rounds, because her cardio looked great, she didn't seem gassed at all, so I'm like, all right, she's going to put the beating on this girl. Julia's been knocked out multiple times, she's been finished, so it's like, damn. It's like plus 275. That's good value. Threw a little 0.1 unit sprinkle in there. Didn't end up cashing, but I thought that was a good line. I wasn't mad about that at all, considering she got busted up too. Gabriel Hernandez definitely just skid by on that one. She could have gone for the finish, but she was playing it safe. Frustrating, but all the same, it's not that big of a deal. Next up, I didn't play anything for the Eros Medic versus Gilbert Urbina. I was looking for a sprinkle on that anyway. Didn't end up playing that. Same with Jocelyn Edwards. I had her in a different parlay down below that we talked about in the last video. So especially after the BS that happened early, I didn't want to take any risks with any takedown props. So I stayed off this one. The Elijah Smith versus Toshiomi Kazuma. This was something that was funny too. This was the one that we talked about in the previous video, the Elijah Smith to win in rounds 1 or 2 at -200. I did talk about this. I forgot. I didn't even include it in my last video, but I actually had this prop bet at the time, Elijah Smith to win via KO in rounds 1 or 2. So I left this up. This is a white one just because we talked about this line right here, the Elijah Smith to win. We talked about that in the last video. I was talking about placing that one. I just didn't have it. But and it pulled the trigger on it at the time, but I actually had this one in. I forgot about it. But it's basically the same line. Either way, if you placed either one of these, they both would have hit. This one just had the KO in it, so it was slightly better odds. So that ended up hitting, which was nice. Obviously, the live play, that never happened. You know, it was pretty wide the entire time. It never tightened up. No play there. Next up, we had Julius Walker versus Rafael Sequeira. Live betting, oh yeah, there's the Julius Walker live money line didn't really ever come to fruition. Even in the third round when he was wobbled, this is when I took a slight little sprinkle, 0.025 units, just a tiny little sprinkle. Rafael Sequeira, he wobbled Julius Walker late in the third round. He almost knocked him out. So it was plus 2,000. I was like, all right, I gotta dabble, just a tiny little sprinkle on that. Obviously it didn't hit, but it was pretty much nothing on the line. It was just the plus 2,000 when he got wobbled. I was like, I got to go there. But anyway, yeah, there was no live betting opportunity for Julius Walker, so didn't end up doing that one. This single, I didn't end up playing this. The Christian Leroy Duncan -3.5 spread, -195. That bet ended up actually hitting. I didn't end up playing it because I had him in another parlay too. And with the rocky start, I didn't want to go too crazy. But if you did, that one would have hit too. Same with the Miles Johns +7.5 alternate spread. I didn't end up placing it, but this line would have hit. Obviously, -220. I'm like, oh my goodness, these lines were both so good. I just talked about it in the last video. I just didn't end up placing it. This was the really fun part, though. I was really excited about this. I talked about this. I called this in. I spoke it into existence about the Miles Johns and Gene Matsumoto play. You can go back and watch my last video. I literally talked about this. I was thinking, all right, this fight's closer than the line seems to me. So what I thought was I played Miles Johns' money line before the fight started because he was a +205. And I waited and the fight was getting closer and closer. You know, Miles Johns was having some success early on. I forget exactly at what point I played this. I think it was in the third round, towards the end of the third, that Gene Matsumoto's money line got all the way down to -130. So I did a little hedge play. Because, yeah, for the +205 Miles Johns, I had 0.15 units. And the Gene Matsumoto live money line hedge ended up at -130. It was 0.2 to make the hedge for it, as you can see, to win what I put in for that. And because if Miles Johns would have came away with 0.15 or 0.16 units of profit from the hedge play, but obviously he didn't win. I thought it was actually a pretty bad decision, honestly. I thought Miles Johns did enough to win that fight. Super close. You can't really claim, I don't think you can claim a robbery on that one. It was close enough to where it was very competitive, but personally, I think Miles Johns won. And I mean, either way, it broke even, so that's not even a biased pick. It was either breaking even or making just a little bit of money. So I think Miles Johns still deserved that win. If he did, we would have made a little bit of money, but I was just glad that we talked about this play in the last video. So I was glad to see that come to fruition. But yeah, ended up being a wash altogether. Next up, we had Andre Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. This, I actually did play Christian Rodriguez live money line. It felt dumb into the second round, but basically I played this right at the end of the first round. C-Rod was standing on the feet with Andre Fili. He was getting worked. And I was like, all right, if this is how it's going to go, this line's probably not worth it. But right at the end of the first round, he finally starts to grapple. He goes for the takedown. So I'm like, all right, we took his minus crazy something line. It was 275, I think, or almost -300, somewhere around there. Cut it all the way down to a -140. I saw him implement the grappling at the end. We know C-Rod's cardio is great. He's not going to burn out. So I'm like, all right, is he finally about to lock in and go for the grappling? You know, if he does that for the second and third rounds, he can take Andre Fili down and control him, and he can win this fight. You know, he can win the second and third rounds because obviously he lost the first. So I threw a quarter unit sprinkle on the C-Rod live money line. That crashed and burned because he did not stick to that. He said, screw it, I want to be a striker now against Andre Fili. Stupid IQ decision making. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. very dumb. You hate to see it, but good for Andre Fili. You know, I'm an Andre Fili fan anyway. I wanted to see him win. But, so yeah, it was a I guess win-win, I guess, or lose-lose. You know, it's like I like seeing Andre Fili win, but sucked losing the little quarter unit on the live bet, but it seemed like a decent play to me. Yasmin Lucindo versus Angela Hill. Didn't end up playing anything for this one. We didn't even talk about anything for this one. I just want to let you know nothing was on that one. Steve Erceg versus Odie Osborne. This was a huge play. We talked about this. This is literally what I had in that last video. If Erceg faces some early adversity in round one, these odds might even up. Odie could potentially hurt Erceg at some point early on, which would tighten the lines up quite a bit as well. That's exactly what happened. He got rocked early on. He got close. I think the plus 100, it was, I'm trying to think of when this was. It was a little bit later on. I think it was early second round when I placed this. Maybe late first. It was somewhere in I think around the second round where the odds got all the way to a plus 100. At one point, it completely flipped too. I didn't even get it at the best spot. It got all the way up to, I think, plus 130 or something crazy. So, because obviously he lost the first round and I was a little bit concerned. But I knew, I'm like, all right, Steve, as long as he sticks to a damn smart game plan and tries to grapple. The second round had me worried because he was still standing and trying to strike. In the third round, it was very decisive. That's when the odds completely skyrocketed the other way. You know, that's when Steve Erceg's money line shot to like -5 something. It was crazy. But in the second round, you know, it was very, very close. The money line completely tanked because he was a -575 to start this fight before it started. I mean, so this was a huge live betting play. We talked about it in the last video. Super excited about this one. And at this point, we had already cashed. We made some money. I completely took the Roman Dolidze, Anthony Hernandez off, but it wouldn't have really made a difference either way because it was one-sided absolute beatdown. You know, those odds never tightened up. It was Anthony Hernandez had his way, and that was about it. That was pretty brutal beatdown of a fight, but, you know, shout out to Anthony Hernandez. He did his thing. But, yeah, and then this was the parlays, too. Both of the plays of the week ended up cashing, so hopefully you saw the last video. These both cashed. We had Jocelyn Edwards and CLD money lines for a parlay at -204. One unit ended up hitting for about half a unit. And then we had the Gabriel Fernandez and Angela Hill plus 7.5 alternate spread. That ended up hitting -185. One unit ended up cashing. And this was a little parlay I added later on too. This was after the Cody Brundage fight too. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, need a little bounce back. It got screwed. I was like, I played it super safe, just a little half unit, -286. The odds were cooked, but I was like, oh my goodness, we need a little something coming back. This was something I just played on my own. I didn't talk about this in the last video, but just brought in a little 0.17 units. So yeah, for the total with all of the live betting and everything I added, it was 1.0993 units in at 20% ROI. I also wanted to show you too, without the blue, this was very similar. This is without any of the blue lines calculated into the final total, just because those were ones I didn't talk about in the last video. So to be completely transparent with you guys, I just didn't have these in. So that's nothing we talked about. This just includes the video or the bets that we talked about in the last video, but still, which was a big ROI, 19%, one unit. And then finally, this was the green only. So if you just simply tailed the bets that I had placed before the fight started, plus 0.47 units, 8.64% ROI. That just includes the Cody Brundage, the Gabriel Fernandez. We scroll down, then boom, it just includes the plays of the week, those two with this little right here. So yeah, it was just pretty short in terms of the pre-fight slate for the green bets that we had this week. So yeah, still plus money, made some money for all of them. But I just want to show you guys all those different options to be completely transparent with you guys. But yeah, this was a good week. You know, can't have any complaints. Money's money, profit is profit. We cashed. I know a lot of you guys were in the comments talking about these, so I'm glad you guys liked it. But yeah, you know, all around good week. It was a decent card all around. You know, the power bomb with Elijah Smith was absolutely insane. We saw Fluffy dominate. That was pretty crazy. Eros Medic, crazy round one knockout. There were some cool, good scraps. You know, even Jocelyn Edwards, that was a really good scrap too. In the Julius Walker one, that was interesting to say the least, but it was at least entertaining. So yeah, all around for a Vegas card or for an Apex card, it was pretty damn good. So had a good time. And yeah, I hope you guys made some money. I hope you guys liked this video. You know, if you made some money, please let me know in the comments if you got some value. If you made something, let me know how much you made. Let me know what you thought about this card, what you made, anything. Just let me know in the comments, and I appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much for all the love on the recent videos, for all the likes, the comments, the recent subscriptions. It means a ton. Thank you guys so much. We're going to keep ramping up these videos, more and more coming every week, so make sure you guys stay tuned. UFC 319's coming up this week. We got Dana White Contender Series coming up this week too, so we're going to have videos on all that stuff, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Once again, thank you guys for all the support, and it's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'll see y'all soon. So, peace.